That's better than the gong that we had.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Is this thing working? It is working. It's a smaller room today, so I'm not sure, but good morning and welcome to our second all candidates debate for this provincial election. Welcome, my name is Colleen Clark and I'm the acting CEO for the Kelowna. Microphone is not working? It is now. It is now. Okay. Thanks, Caroline. We're just starting to yell Clark and Miller across the room now. Okay, try it again. Good morning. My name is Colleen Clark and I'm the acting CEO for the Kelowna Chamber of Commerce. It's my sincere honor to introduce today's all candidates forum for the electoral district of Kelowna, Lake Country and Coldstream. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Syilx Okanagan peoples. And we acknowledge their rich history and culture and thank them for the opportunity to live, work, and play on the lands that we are on. I bounced way along here, didn't I? And bounced out. Assistance, please. Thank you. I'll move along. We are very proud to say this is our second forum of the week. Our third one will be tomorrow for the Kelowna Central riding, so please join us for that. This forum, I'd like to thank Castanet. They'll be live streaming as they did yesterday. A huge thank you to our sponsor today. Ducks Unlimited has come on board as one of our sponsors for this year's All Candidates Forums, and we want to thank them for coming out. They have submitted a few questions in throughout the system, so there'll be some information there. I also want to thank our friends at the Uptown Rutland Business Association and the Coast Capri Hotel, for which they provided us the opportunity to be here today. And now it is my pleasure to turn it over to our President and Board Chair, Maurice Harvey.
There's not room. We're going to sit over there. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this, as Colleen said, second of three all candidates debates. Happy to have you here and very pleased to have all of you here, and two candidates that we are very pleased did show up. Want to acknowledge the presence of Mayor Dias, former MLA Ben Stewart. We have Carmen Rempel, who is also on our board, and the presence of our ambassadors. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you.
And Blair Ireland.
The Mayor of Lake Country, of course, is here, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for being here this morning too. Thanks to the team for organizing this event. You've got three. It was a huge week for you, so we're very pleased that you're doing this. We're very proud at the Chamber to host these events because they're our way of contributing to the democratic process. Our objective, obviously, is to help you make an informed decision come October 19th. It's a decision that matters to us, matters to business, it matters to those who are interested in influencing and positively impacting the growth of our community, which is growing very, very fast. So as part of our advocacy role, you know that your chamber is going to be working with the newly elected MLAs to ensure that our members have that strong voice that help us shape our community. To the candidates, again, we appreciate your participation. We commend the transparency and integrity that you're showing by being here and being willing to put yourself on the spot and answer our questions. As a reminder, you can visit elections.bc.ca for comprehensive information on where and how to vote, including details on advance voting, which I believe starts this Thursday. And election day is October 19th. It's now my pleasure to introduce our independent guest moderator, Chris Walker from CBC Radio. Chris is an award-winning veteran broadcaster covering the BC Interior for almost 20 years and has lived in Kelowna since 2010. Chris?
Thank
you. Thank you, Maurice, and thank you, Colleen. Colleen, I think you said yesterday that this will be your 52nd debate that you've organized in your time. How many jokers in that deck?
I'm not answering that.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us again this morning. I am here to ask the questions. I am here to keep everybody on track. I'm here to explain the rules, which are down there in my briefcase. So just a moment. So we have piece of paper in front of me, which I haven't looked at, of course, has the rules right in front of my nose. What we're going to do is have an opening statement, which is 2 minutes for each candidate. We will have then timed questions. You have 2 minutes to answer each question. I know there's only two of you, but if you want to rebut each other, you have a minute to do that. It'll be less confusing than yesterday, probably. And then we have a quick lightning round where you have 1 minute to answer a bunch of quick, short questions each. Those ones do not have a rebuttal. And then at the end, in reverse order, closing statements, again, 2 minutes. Clear as mud?
Yep.
Castanet is streaming this. Thank you very much for doing that. Castanet.net, you can find it on, and then we'll be airing select excerpts on CBC as well on our morning show. So, are we ready to begin?
Ready.
Kevin Kraft, you won the Kevin Kraft Independent. You won the draw to begin, so you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Is it a win? Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you to the organizers. Thank you to the Chamber for putting this on, and thank you for being here and taking the time to listen to what Anna and I have to say. I'm Kevin Kraft, and I'm the true independent of the Central Okanagan, not affiliated with the BC United Fallout. It's an honor to be vying for the job of representing Kelowna Lake Country Coldstream. I'm a father, farmer, teacher, former firefighter with a real deep connection to this community. My journey through these roles has given me a unique perspective on how to approach matters and issues that matter to the people of this region the most. I'm not here as part of a political machine or to push a party agenda. I'm not here to bash party leaders or their policies. I'm here to represent real concerns of everyday people like myself. Whether it's ensuring access to affordable housing, support sustainable industries, and finding balance and solutions between environment and business. My focus may be more pragmatic than some, but common sense, logic, and good judgment with a back to basics mindset is really at the core of what I'm trying to do here. I believe in a future where we protect our natural resources while growing our local economy and support business and industries, where families and businesses can thrive and grow together. I serve as the East Area Director on the Regional District Board and currently sit as Vice Chair. And I'm a young leader, but an experienced leader as well. I understand the complexities of both rural versus urban priorities. And we need leadership that understands the importance of local input and recognizes the distinct challenges of the 6 unique communities of the riding of Kelowna Lake Country Coldstream. I believe we need to look at priorities and spending. We need to look at education funding and infrastructure. We need to grow. The optics and metrics of growth in the Okanagan have been no secret to anyone. So it's time to take a step forward.
Thank you, Kevin. Anna Warwick-Sears, NDP.
Good morning, everybody. So just to clear the air, I want to assure all of you that I am a centrist. I'm a centrist who's running for the New Democrat Party because I believe that we need the best possible representation for our communities. And I believe that this election cycle, the NDP is going to be the party that is going to be best for our region. I believe in being part of a government that is stable, experienced, and has a rational, science-based way of looking at problems. As an MLA, I believe that my role is really to advocate for the community, for all of the communities within the riding. It involves a lot of listening. It is not about being an expert in one thing or another, but being willing and able to look at all the different issues that arise and bring them forward within Victoria to solve problems. This is the approach that I've taken over the past 18 years as Executive Director of the Okanagan Basin Water Board. The Water Board is a partnership of Okanagan local governments. My board of directors is primarily mayors, also councillors and regional district directors. We work very collaboratively, not just across jurisdictions in the Okanagan, but also with senior levels of government and different sectors in the water sector. And a lot of this is being an advocate for the Okanagan. within Victoria, working with different ministries and government staff. And I'm rapidly running out of time, so I will just say that I think I have a positive vision for the Okanagan, and I also want to carry it forward.
And that's time. Thank you both. Okay, our first question. Finding and hiring good employees continues to challenge many businesses. Much of this is tied to housing and inflation, as we know. What is your plan, if elected, to create an environment where good employees can work and live in the Okanagan? Kevin, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. It has been a challenge from industry to small cafes and businesses. Tourism's been a challenge, economic challenges, media challenges with regards to how we deal with emergencies. I've had international students in my home for 3 years, and they say back to me sometimes that there's content creators out there creating posts about how the Okanagan is not a place to go in August, which has been devastating to our tourism industry this year especially. We need to get creative in our housing plan. We need to treat rural areas and agricultural areas and properties in the ALR with a bit of a creative way of thinking for housing and adding housing, secondary suites, agritourism, things like that. We need to create a model that supports the middle, lower class jobs in this area, because the Okanagan has quickly become an area where people aspire to be, which is not a bad thing. But it's driving up housing costs, it's driving up all of these different costs associated, and the staffing roles that we're looking to fill and we're looking to hope to retain has become increasingly difficult. And families in the Okanagan are struggling, and young youth are struggling to find jobs that have meaning and value and are compensated appropriately. It's a challenge from one end to the other. And so housing is a big one, affordability. I mean, the parties will talk about all of these, big items in last night's debate, but really, what are we gonna do to fix it? And so we gotta look at real local focused options, and we have 2 post-secondary institutions that could look at doing.
Thank you, that's time. We'll never know what those 2 post-secondary institutions
More
will do.
vocational training in high schools.
Anna?
Yeah, I would second a lot of what Kevin said. Those higher education institutions, UBC Okanagan and Okanagan College, are both really leaning into training the next generation of professionals. And absolutely, we need housing for not just workers, not just like unskilled workers, not just lower income workers, but also the new doctors that want to come here, young professionals, people who are in their 30s, exactly the kind of people that we want to attract. We want to make sure that there's homes here that are affordable for them and that are attractive for them. The New Democrat Party has really leaned into building housing, all kinds, in all different ways, using a very kind of problem-solving, creative approach. They're looking at many different options. They're looking at developers doing more development. They're looking at subsidized rentals for people who are low income. They're looking at just about any form of housing that people want to go and talk about. They're working with the mayors. They're working with the communities to figure out how to get more housing into the Okanagan. And I think that, some of the stuff in the debate was like, we have to let private business get going on it. Well, the developers that I've talked to are quite happy with the changes in zoning and the goal to densify a lot of our communities, because that is mostly being done by the private business, private communities, private developers. So I think that there's a nice happy medium going on, and I say let the builders build.
That's time, thank you. Our next question, and Anna, will begin with you for this one. The province is spending more and more every year. The deficit is big, the debt is bigger. What's your fix for the budget?
You know, my take after listening to David Eby talk about it and some of his briefings for candidates is the budget deficit that the NDP is putting forward this year was entered into very deliberately, very soberly, and with the question of what is best for BC right now. Right now, people are struggling, people are having trouble affording basic things, food, shelter. When I was, there was a little poll on the internet last night during the debate about what the biggest issues were, and it was affordability, affordability, affordability. A lot of what supports people also is the services, the medical services, the transit, all these different things that help people with all the ordinary costs and expenses of life. This is not the right time to cut services. If we have to have a larger budget deficit for a time while we get through the bottom of this global inflationary cycle where everyone is stretched all across North America, we need to support our people so that when the economy starts to go up, we'll have things in place and the people will be able to thrive and take us forward.
Kevin?
What will I do? There's no doubt that the province is in a significant deficit position. I look at fiscal policies from the NDP with regards to the 60-40 mortgage splits and opportunities to get people into housing. I look at the Green Platform talking about taxation, and taxing the wealthy. And we have the Conservatives putting out the Rustad rebates, which is a significant undertaking. My problem with these fiscal policies is that if there's this much budget in the provincial coffers without impacting our bottom line as constituents and taxpayers, then we should be very frustrated right now with how our budget and how money's being allocated. And if we're thinking about policy around infrastructure and growth and development and housing starts and builds, like every time I hear one of those words, it's cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. There is a balance between municipal and local governments that we need to support. There is collaborative leadership that we need to engage with, from our local leaders to provincial and federal leaders. And we also need to look at, having been part of the university and in local government now, and watching some of the projects being completed in both the school district and local governments, it is pretty sad to see the costs and the quotes coming in and the significant increases in costs to those local governments, municipalities. And I believe it goes both ways in a relationship with the contractors and developers, because those inflated costs also get passed down to the end consumer. Like a pragmatic approach, like I said at my beginning, I just want to be taxed slightly less and not given rebates to be prescribed as how to spend my own money.
Thank you both. Any rebuttals? Just let me know if there are rebuttals, no?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Where you go? 1 minute.
1 minute. So
This is full of surprises.
the other thing that I wanted to say about the budget is, in my day job, where most of you know me from, I have been advocating many times for years on things that I think the government needs to spend more money on. We need to spend more money locally on fuel load mitigation in the forest. We need to spend more money on replacing the Okanagan Dam in Penticton because it's undersized for climate change. There are a lot of things that we need to do now before the next round of disasters so that things cost much less money. Right now, if we do not spend money up front, we're going to be in a situation where we have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in the future. So money spent now, you business people will know, sometimes it's appropriate to take out loans so that you can be spending much less money in the future.
Please, 1 minute.
I'd also like to point out a factor that is important and near and dear to me with regards to wildlife management. And if we're talking about applications of funding, Hunters, fishers, and outdoor enthusiasts have been asking for years for funding reform to provide more funding for conservation efforts, wildlife efforts, and we're looking at societies much like Ducks Unlimited, where they are doing fundamental work for our ecology and our environment, habitat restoration, and those are community partners that we need to desperately invest in. But again, there's a model there that I'm happy to work on with either side of the government to ensure that our voices are being heard in that realm of people, because it's frustrating and challenging to see money allocated in ways that we want to see action, but studies and reports, bureaucracy, and staffing kind of get in the way sometimes.
Thank you both. Let's talk about foreign professional credentials. All parties agree that Canada and the provinces should process those more quickly to help hiring and labor problems, especially in healthcare. What will you do regarding foreign credentials? Kevin, let's begin with you.
Sure. We're at an interesting time. I mean, we have both academic institutions here in the riding of Kelowna Lake Country Coldstream that are doing fantastic work, graduating students. We need to also recognize that we are graduating those students, international students, from our local universities and our local areas, and retaining those is also significantly important. But definitely, we need to look at how our needs can be met by those coming into this country, and we need to do both. We need to encourage local people who have been educated locally to stay local. That's a strategy to maintain that local job void that is forming. But what we need to focus on too is that when internationals are coming here and they are fully qualified from their countries, we need to develop true ways in ensuring that our healthcare systems and all the systems that they're trained in create systems where, sorry, I'm saying systems a lot, where they're basically held up to Canadian standards. And if there is some training and actual vocational training where they need to up a few things, we need to identify that quickly and get them there as quickly as possible, because the value of their work, and they've obviously trained in that field and are passionate about it, we should welcome that with open arms and ensure that they can get there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, the NDP is very well aware of the foreign credentialing issues, particularly with doctors. I've heard a lot from the party about the need to, well, it's a competition among all the provinces and other parts of the world even to attract these doctors and get them working, attract Canadian doctors and attract foreign doctors. And when we have foreign doctors, the issues are not so much with the province, it's the credentialing boards. But I am on a Dean's Advisory Committee for the Faculty of Applied Sciences at UBC, both campuses. That faculty includes nursing and engineering, and UBC is working very hard to develop programs to get those professionals retrained and into the system. Not even retrained, just recredentialed. Some of it involves mentoring of doctors who are very experienced. We don't want to be in a situation where we have a whole lot of overeducated taxi drivers like they do in Toronto. We want to actually get these people who are already trained into the system so that they can work for us. And the NDP is very aware of this, and they are working very hard to lower the barriers, and for that matter, lower the barriers to homegrown medical professionals, changing the fee structure, reducing the level of paperwork, opening things up to get more professionals actually working to help patients instead of working on paperwork.
Thank you both.
Chris?
Yes, please, 1 minute.
BC is one of the most beautiful places to live in the world. So convincing people to come live here, work here, raise families here, that's not the challenge. What's frustrating is the solutions to healthcare and certain policies that the NDP are proposing arguably should have been implemented 5+ years ago to try and assist in the situations that we are in now. It was no secret. There was no secret that there were warning signs and things coming down the pipe that were going to lead to this. and the student situation or the internationals arriving to Canada has been a topic for the same amount of time. So it's challenging to hear that it's a priority when it should have been something that's done already.
I don't know if you noticed, but there was a global pandemic about 5 years ago. And that it was very disruptive, including especially for the medical system. A lot of people left the medical system through burnout, and it was a hard time for all of us. And that put a major disruption in all parts of our society that the NDP soldiered through and has been able to make progress despite all of those stressors. So I think, not to sound defensive, I think it's just a matter of fact that they've done a great job considering the challenges that were thrown at them.
Well, let's continue on the pandemic theme just for a moment, because one of the things that led to was paid sick leave, an increase in paid sick leave. It continues to be contentious, particularly in home care companies and businesses that see a high degree of turnover. If elected, how would you address this cost to business? Kevin, we'll begin with you.
Paid sick leave. Well, there's no doubt that some unions take that very seriously already and have it built into contracts and businesses, and it is a point of conflict in most contractual deliberations when we're forming new contracts at the union level. What's challenging is creating the conditions for society, and this goes along with job retention and the smaller level jobs. We need to respect our employees, and that's part of the deal is sick leave. People get sick, people's family members get sick, and we need to support that in our communities. How we get there, I'm not a specialist. It'll be up to the governing party to ensure that we address that problem accordingly. But as an independent, we have the opportunity to actually work with either side and ensure that something does happen and we do get traction on that particular issue. And that's where the independents kind of get to shine, is we get to hold parties accountable for what they're promising.
Anna?
Again, this may surprise you, but it is also possible for people who belong to a party to work across the aisle and negotiate on behalf of their communities. As a longtime employer, I feel very strongly that I do not want my employees to come to work sick. This was really brought to the forefront during the pandemic, but even though we were able to institute mostly working from home, it's something that the cost of business if your whole staff is out sick because one person had to come in and infected everybody else, it's a terrible situation. My understanding with the 5 days of paid sick leave is that the unions wanted 10 days and 5 days was the compromise. And that's what we're going with now. And it seems quite reasonable to me over a period of a year to have 5 days paid sick leave where you're not coming in and spreading diseases to your coworkers.
Thank you both. I just got a note that says, remind people about Slido. You'll see the code up on, hey. Yesterday it was a trick microphone. This morning it's a trick slide. You'll see the code up there. You can just go to the Slido app, enter the code. You can upvote questions. Can you? I don't know if you can. You can't downvote questions, but you can upvote questions, and you can ask your own if you like. And we are going to get to them, especially during our little lightning round, because the questions on Slido are generally shorter, briefer, and more to the point. So just a reminder to do that. The code is right there. It's a pretty slick little app.
Table is correct. That one takes you to a year ago's.
Wait, does it?
Actually, no, Justina, you have to clean your cache because you've been here before.
Oh.
People will get the new.
Now we're getting complicated.
Complicated.
So the
Clean your
one I put this
cache.
in about 10 minutes ago to my phone. Am I looking at last year's questions? No, I'm good. All right. Let's continue with a question about water management. It's something that Mayor Ireland and I talked about on the CBC last week, I think it was. The threat of invasive mussels, but not only that, in terms of climate threats, also droughts. We don't need to remind anybody about fires. a lot going on environmentally in the Okanagan. What would you do to address these threats? And I think, Anna, it's your turn to go first.
Boy, that's a hard one. A lot of my my point of view on this is being proactive. So my entire career has been spent on this. And a big thing is to get plans in place ahead of time. We want to have all the different water suppliers having similar drought plans. We want to make sure their drought plans are robust and they know what to do in the event that their reservoirs are not as full as they should be. We want to have plans in place. I would like to see every local government having a flood bylaw so that if you buy a property in the floodplain, you know that as a buyer, you are fully informed of that. If people are building in the floodplain, they should be building high and dry. It doesn't mean that you have to sterilize the neighborhood. You just have to be aware of it. The issue of Okanagan Dam, of course, it needs to be replaced now because it's undersized for climate change. We should be doing that now. I think being proactive is the main thing that we need to do for all these water things. Being proactive for zebra mussels means keeping them out. Like, let's prevent them. Let's put in barriers. Let's put in check stops. It's funny because I'm always, like, my whole career has been being a critic of government. And now I'm saying, okay, I need to be that person that I was criticizing. But I think that there is a lot that I would like to do as your representative, being that the Okanagan has so many water management challenges. I think that I can do a lot of good work from within government to inform people exactly what's going on. It's very, very helpful to communities to have a strong advocate from within the governing party.
Kevin?
Yeah, I already believe in a proactive approach as well. You know, we're behind the eight ball when it comes to work that could be done on our reservoirs. We have 2 high elevation reservoir systems that could be increased in both retention, storage, and application. We also have valley bottom services from Coldstream, which is extremely important because not only Coldstream Creek is a point of issue, but Greater Vernon Water comes from 40%-ish from Cal Lake. You know, so quagga and zebra mussels is a deep concern. We need action on that. And I know, you know, in local government as well as OBWB and the work that's gone into that, advocating for change and rules, you know, don't move a mussel, trying to get more funding on programs. That's extremely important work. We also need to consider the forestry industry and their practices and easements increased around our water tributaries, protecting the ecology from top to bottom. And we also need to look at waterway reclamation post-fire or in case of an emergency or landslide, where we rehabilitate waterways with natural species to provide the shade and provide that sponge around waterways and tributaries. And again, supporting that ecology from bottom to top or top to bottom. And you know, we have some great opportunity here, particularly in this riding, to be leaders and support utility providers like Black Mountain Irrigation District in really expanding those opportunities and increasing that retention to serve not only our raw agricultural water application, which is North American renown, but also meet the demands and the growth metrics that are here in the Okanagan.
Thank you. Businesses say they continue to face increasing costs due to crime and the consequences of drug decriminalization. If elected, how would you provide businesses with concrete help on this issue? Kevin?
I'll be clear that I'm not a drug or healthcare professional, but what I've seen in communities like Rutland, where I grew up, has been really sad to see. There's been applications of all types of centers and services throughout the area, and rather than having centralized services where those who are homeless and addicted know where to go, know where to get support, know where to be safe, We've kind of spread that throughout municipalities. In Kelowna, it's not unique to Kelowna, it's in multiple different areas in BC. But what we have is movements of people throughout different communities accessing services and making homeowners or families or people uneasy about how their parks are being treated or how their homes are being viewed by people walking by. And there's worry, there's investment in security systems, there's business worried about their product or their businesses being vandalized or tagged or fires in the back corner. Security is a huge issue, and again, it's a cost to businesses that's trickling down to the end consumer because we're trying to meet all of these needs. So the increased costs, what I'd really like to see is a guided model to more centralized services to not only protect that population and demographic, but ensure that communities are feeling heard with the issues that they're facing in some of their communities with the placement of these centers. So that's on working with Interior Health onto how to approach the services, but also local governments and also the provincial government and their policy for clean supply and all of these things that are creating a negative feedback loop right now.
That's time. Anna?
Yeah, just quickly, I would say that one thing that I would disagree with Kevin on is that I think it's actually good to have distributed services because particularly our riding is so far flung. We can't have the homeless people with no cars trying to access mental health services just in one centralized location. I do think, though, it's really important to choose where those locations are and make sure that they are not interfering with the local community and the prosperous areas of business and neighborhoods. I 100% agree that this is a very weird and somewhat frightening time to have this really global problem with these heavy drugs, and they're causing mental illness, they're exacerbating mental illness, challenges with homelessness. I was talking to someone recently, it's like, it's hard to get people who are strung out and brain damage from the drugs into houses, but often one of the things that causes people to be on drugs is the fact that they were initially made homeless through some, work injury or, some problem that they had. They ended up being homeless, and then to soothe themselves, they started doing drugs, and now it's even harder to house them. But the NDP is working very hard on organized crime, cracking down on organized crime. They've hired more than 250 police officers since they came in. They've been cracking down on money laundering, seizing criminals' fast cars and luxury products. They've been trying to work with the federal government to reduce the influx of the drugs at the ports.
Chris?
Yes, please. 1 minute.
We need to take this seriously, and we need to also understand that we need to really focus on not approaching problems 4 years at a time. We need to take a break from that approach and really focus on long-term solutions. What I would suggest as an educator is that we do fund our education system significantly more, increase learning spaces, increase perhaps the budget to incentivize teachers to stay after school and provide social programs, physical programs, getting kids and youth active, physically active, socially active, and engaged in their communities. I think if we can graduate young individuals from high schools where they are aware of their physical health, their mental health, their nutritional health, and their ability to serve their communities and willingness to work and work ethic, we are all going to be in a better place. But that is long-term thinking, and it's time to take that step.
I just commend Kevin for sharing the NDP party line with me.
Let's tackle the second bridge question, shall we? How would you support improving Okanagan transportation systems for safety and efficiency, bridge or no bridge? Anna, let's begin with you.
Yeah, we definitely need to work on our transportation, our traffic, our transit. These are really irksome issues that I believe that there are many things that we can do that are much less expensive, much faster than investing in a second bridge where you have a constriction at the west side end, a constriction at this end, and you just will have a big wide parking lot over that portion of the lake with actually, you know, all that beautiful new development that people are talking about with Tolko in the old Tolko site. You know, that would just become like a freeway interchange with a bunch of very slow traffic going through it. So I'm a big fan of bus rapid transit. One of the proposals that I've heard is widening the existing bridge. That seems very sensible to me, perhaps with a bus-only lane that you could have that could have transit buses going much more frequently from the west side down to downtown Kelowna. There are options that we can do within our existing transportation footprint, if you will, to improve with the intersections, to improve the flow of traffic, and really to grow the businesses on the west side so that more people on the west side can work over there, and to provide better housing options in Kelowna so that people don't have to commute. Commuting is a complete drag, and one of the reasons why I moved to Kelowna, ironically, was because I was really tired of where I was living and I had to commute so much. So I think that there are options, and I think that we should embrace them.
Kevin?
Yeah, there's no doubt we need to work on our transportation corridors, but I wouldn't say throwing a bridge at it is a logical approach. It took the better part of 30 years to build the last bridge, and I don't see it being accomplished in 8. But there are desperate needs elsewhere. I mean, West Side Road, for example, has been in desperate need for improvements. We look at Highway 97 slope stability, which is questionable all the time. Here we are coming into another spring season. Is it going to hold up? We need to look at potentially paving the forestry road that accesses from Naramata over top to Highway 33, because we can't eliminate that access. We need to look at Highway 33 in Lake Country and a highway driving right through the middle of a municipality. It's devastating, and during tourism season, it's been a headache for many of us. So how do we get creative with actual local issues to increase those transportation corridors? You know, we're looking at, I'd really love to see decreased access to the highway from commercial properties and ensure that our intersections are used appropriately. Every intersection should have an advanced green that works all the time, because ensuring that safe transport and turning left through an intersection, especially busy intersections, is wildly important. And it's frustrating to see 7 to 3 on weekdays, and I'm like, well, I don't feel safe, especially in the summer when the highways are full. You know, we can talk about transit quickly. I'd love to see a diverse fleet that services different communities in ways that are perhaps more efficient, more timely, and more opportunities. Having a large bus serve 10 or 12 people is inappropriate, but having those options provided would be interesting. And I know that this is a federal snafu, but I want to see that rail trail finished, because it is limiting pedestrian access between 2 communities, and it's time to get it done.
Rebuttal?
No,
1
no
minute?
complaints. I think those are good ideas.
No, that's not a rebuttal. Take that time away. We have a question here for the moderator. Now, let's be clear. I'm asking the question. No, I'm joking. But the question is for me, and I'd like to take my full 2 minutes to answer this question. The question is for the moderator. Do you have any statements from the absent candidates? Yeah. And the answer is no. Also from Slido.
Moving on.
BC is a resource-based province. How will you work to balance the industry's needs and the environment? Kevin?
Yeah, there's no secret. I'm a big advocate for industry. I would love to see investment in research and technology to really incentivize more efficient practices at an industry level. So, I mean, we're looking at anything from machinery to different tech, AI implementation. Like, you tell me any business owner throughout the province who wouldn't move towards a model that saves 5% or gains 5% of efficiency. Like, when it comes time to upgrade your systems, you're going to move into that direction. And what we're creating is conditions where people can't move because there's not a better option, but we're villainizing perhaps traditional uses without providing a better option. What I'd like to see is changes in the forestry sector. There's no doubt that forestry has been the backbone of this province, and most of BC's forests are managed. We can do a better job at working with the forestry industry and managing our forestry practices, limiting our impacts to the ground floor, clearing clear cuts, doing a better job of thinning and using that product and material for heating homes and looking at rural communities and providing that service, because we are still north, and wood fire is definitely the best heat. There's product there and there's opportunity there, and we need a provincial government that is really going to guide the forestry industry in a way that is going to support them in all of our initiatives moving forward. But my frustration, for example, BCUC turning down the project for the South Okanagan for expansion of their natural gas line, I find it troubling. And here we are trucking in natural gas to support our needs here in the central Okanagan because of our increased volume use during the winter. It's really troubling. And, we need to support both.
Anna?
Yeah, I think the first thing that springs to my mind is value added. I think it's ridiculous that we're shipping raw logs from Port Alberni over to Asia to do stuff with. I think that there's amazing work that's being done at UBC in Vancouver in their forestry, Forest Products Lab, or there's a whole division where they're looking at different ways of using our wood to make different types of products. There's some really great work with massive beams that are put together with small pieces of wood that are glued in place and can replace steel beams. It's great beams. There's a different name besides glulam, but I know what you're talking about. So this is, I think not just with wood products, but also a lot of our agricultural products we could do way more value added development of those things, fruit, juice, dried fruit, karma sodas, whatever. We can do a lot more value added for all of our different products. But I think with respect to the resource-based communities, there's also a ton of opportunity to expand the green energy transition. A lot of northeastern BC, there's plenty of solar potential, there's wind potential, there's different things that we can do. Distributed hydro across different parts of British Columbia will get us electricity where we need it. And we don't have to do it in a massive scale. We can do many, many small projects. We can have more solar in the Okanagan. We can incentivize people to have more solar panels on their house. My partner has all electric heat and an electric car, and he gets 100% of his electricity from his solar panels.
Chris?
Yes, please. 1 minute.
We need to get a little more creative in what we're doing as a provincial government. Slapping the title 40% reduction by 2030, I think, for example, it took us 30 years to build a bridge. I don't think we're going to reduce our reduction emissions by 40% by 2030. But what we can do is create the conditions and the incentives and the technology and research in our post-secondary institutions, in our schools and education systems, in our healthcare systems, and supporting industries and making the changes that are more efficient. That's what we need to do. We can't just put labels on it that show away from business investment and infrastructure investment and interest in our areas of growth.
Yes, please. 1 more minute.
Yeah, I think it's great to have targets I think that that is a very sound economic principle to have a target that you're striving for. And I think that in part, those targets for the energy transition will be driven by what's happening internationally and by the technology that is being developed here in British Columbia, along with other parts of the world, where we are, you know, the price of solar panels is coming down really dramatically. The technology that's going into offshore wind, the technology that's going into improving hydro, there is a lot that's going on, and it is going to drive us faster than we realize with this energy transition.
Quick, Chris.
I think we're done.
You're gonna have to work it into another.
I will, I promise.
You can pivot,
I promise,
as they say.
I promise.
This is a popular one always at these events. Speculation tax. Yay or nay? Discuss. Anna Warwick-Sears.
Well, I know that it's not that popular in the Okanagan because I've had a lot of people tell me that. The truth is that it's opened up approximately 20,000 homes that are now being rented by people. So it is helping with the exact goal that they had, putting it in, particularly with people who are completely absentee investors who are opening up their condos in Vancouver to allow people to rent them. I also think that it's good for the government to be flexible, and I know that this NDP government has been working with individual communities, maybe not Kelowna quite as much yet, but I know that the city of Vernon was able to successfully advocate that Predator Ridge as a resort community would be exempt from the spec tax. And I think that there are just basically looking at it and saying it's much like Big White. People are coming for a very particular reason, and they shouldn't be subject to that tax. I think I know for a fact that there's more work that needs to be done to get Silver Star included in that. But what I see this government is looking at a problem squarely in the face, saying, okay, here's the issue that we have. We have a lot of foreign buyers. We have a lot of people sitting on real estate that could be into the rental market. They're also putting in things that help support landlords who may feel uncomfortable with renting their properties, putting in insurance in case the renters are not paying on time, increasing the budget of the residential tenancy board so that people don't have such long waiting lists to deal with renter-landlord problems. So I think that it's good. We're making progress, and I think it is what it is.
Kevin? You've got 2 minutes, so take your time.
Well, we should have one technically because these are quick questions. Balance is important. I mean, I think the spec tax is doing its job. Is it doing its job as well as it could? Is it exactly perfect? I'm not convinced. But you know, its impacts on the rental market, its impacts around the increased volumes of availability housing in the Okanagan has been seen, so I don't disagree. We need to also support our landlords and owners, and there is some synergies between short-term and long-term rentals that those owners could get creative with. We need to support our landowners and the investors who are our provincial neighbors, who want to enjoy the Okanagan, who want to bring their families here. We need to look at how to balance that approach. So is it perfect? I'm unconvinced. Is it doing its job that it was intended? I would say yes. Is it something that I'd like to see moving forward? Sure, but I'd like to see perhaps some changes that create that balance, especially in a tourism-driven economy like the Okanagan.
Rebuttal, please.
Just thank you, Kevin. Those were great points. I think what we used to have before Airbnb got really popular is that people would have their condo or their summer home here in the Okanagan, and then they would rent it for the rest of the year to a student, just a 9-month rental. And that was really normal, typical thing when I moved here in 2006, and that seems like a sane approach. And it's very difficult to find those seasonal rentals now. So I think definitely more work needs to be done. It's not perfect, but it is something I believe that this government is good at listening to advice and advocacy from the communities, and that is what I would like to help the riding with.
Thank you. We started these questions 10 minutes early, so I think we can move on to the lightning round. So these answers are 1 minute each. I've got, I don't know, 4 of them, 4 groups of them, so 8 questions
Oh.
altogether. So you ready?
Like how
Or you
lightning,
wanna-
how lightning are we talking here?
Well, you've got a minute.
Oh,
The questions
yeah,
are shorter than that, so.
Sure.
And
Thank you.
Some more water.
Thank you. I might need it.
we'll wait for them to get refreshed. Anna Warwick-Sears, we're going to begin with you. A reminder, 1 minute. Earlier you said, don't worry, the budget will be balanced at some point, but we've all learned that budgets don't balance themselves. How long?
Well, what I've heard is that they're going to be gradually reducing it over the next couple of years. I cannot prognosticate beyond that, but I know that we're at the bottom of an economic cycle, and that the predictions are the Bank of Canada rates are going to continue to come down, and we will see the economy rebounding, more building starts picking up again as people can borrow money at a lower rate. So I think right now it looks like we're going to have a couple more years of budget deficits after this, and I think as the economy grows and starts pumping out more revenue, a lot of the budget problems have to do with reduced revenues and the extraordinary costs of fighting wildfires. So as we become more adjusted to...
And that's time.
Okay.
Kevin, on short-term rentals, what do you think of the current...
Oh, I don't get to answer that question.
No, you don't get to answer that question either.
Oh.
We can come back to that maybe.
I like that one.
Um,
I was ready.
Short-term rentals, what do you think of the current policy? How would you change it if you would?
As a family man, I hate going on vacations in a hotel. It's stressful, it's uncomfortable. Perhaps I'm embarrassed of my wild, creative, and funny children. Short-term rentals has been something that's made my trips enjoyable. It's made my investment in the place I'm visiting increase. It's made my appreciation of the communities and culture and things that I'm taking in improve, and it makes me want to go back. So I think the conditions we've created perhaps are one-sided, and I would love to see a bit more balance or zoning or agreements or rental purpose built to help the Okanagan economy thrive with regards to more rental options that provide more support for our tourism industry, both winter, summer, and all season long.
Thank you. Anna Warwick-Sears, you said earlier you've been a critic of government. What's something you've learned about government through running for office that you didn't know before?
It's been interesting getting used to being part of a party team member, because my experience has really been working as a team with the Okanagan communities, and there's somewhat different perspective. The partisanship has been a bit of a learning curve for me. I'm used to people from all parties working together collaboratively. Did a ton of work with Ben Stewart over here and the BC Liberals. When they were in, I feel like I've done a lot of work with the NDP. I'm used to working across the table with people from all different political stripes, and this is something that is, I'm just learning how to navigate. I still think that my intention is to be an honest broker and a good negotiator with people from the other party, should I be elected.
Thank you, Kevin. What's something you've learned or changed your mind around the opioid crisis?
I perhaps had more of a right-sided mentality with dealing with the opioid crisis. Having worked with at-risk youth at the Downtown Drop-In Center, I'm proud of the work that I've done there and the learning that I've done there and the empathy that I've done there. But in this process and seeing what's happening in our communities and seeing how, sorry Anna, but how the NDP have treated treatment, addictions, safe supply, I really think we're counting chickens before they hatch in the sense of practical approaches to helping the issue, and we're getting caught up in providing supports or systems that support symptoms of bad policy.
Anna Warwick-Sears, why do you think it's important to show up to all candidates meetings?
The all candidates meeting, and as well as the media interviews, are really it's like a very long, very extended job interview. The people hiring us are the members of the community, the voters, the people who are looking to us for help. And if you don't show up for a job interview and you still expect to get the job, what does that say? What does that say about the respect that you have for the community? It's very bizarre to be in this political situation. I've never noticed it before myself, and I think that how can you build trust with the person that you want to elect? You need to be able to trust people, and you need to be able to believe that they will be there for you when you need them.
Kevin, this is a question I'll ask you as well.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah. Why is it important? Why is it important to come to all candidates meetings?
As an independent candidate, we have to attend and take advantage of every opportunity to get in front of the public, have people listen, have people see what we're about, have people really invest the time in researching and looking at who their candidates are. It's really disappointing to see essentially a name reliance dictate how this election might go. It's frustrating. This is our fourth time engaging with each other. We've been respectful. We've been interested in what we say. And, I think there's some common ground there, but we're going to approach things in different ways, which is the name of the game. It's hard to balance approaches or bounce ideas across and really reach people when you're missing part of the equation. And it's part of the democratic process, and it's fair to anyone that's looking at their candidates.
And that's time.
To see who they're dealing with.
Anna Warwick-Sears, we saw over the summer the collapse of the BC Tree Fruits Cooperative. How do you think that might have been avoided? Or should it have been avoided?
Well, that is a very deep and complicated question. My understanding, talking to people in the industry and people from the BC Fruit Growers Association, is that it was a long time coming. It's there's so many different factors involved having to do with the structure of the BC Tree Fruits and the goals of the people on the board, but also just the stresses on the industry in general, where land prices are so high, the competition from other markets with the Washington apple growers, big companies like Loblaws who are bringing in fruit from international sources, New Zealand, and selling them instead of BC apples. We need to, it's a whole combination of different factors that led to that collapse, and I really hope that they can rebuild.
Thank you. Kevin, we've seen polarization creeping into politics, maybe influenced by the U.S. How would you avoid, as an elected representative, how would you avoid becoming part of that rage machine?
The polarized opposites of the left and right, and I have a few videos talking about the political spectrum. It's frustrating, especially when you dive into local issues like, there's so much common ground. There's a sense of community. There's a sense of goals and ambitions and places we'd like to see growth or better management. And like, we got to get in the same room, talk about the issues. And like I said, we're going to approach things differently, but I'm not afraid to have that conversation and address those issues and actually work on the steps to actually provide progress or traction on issues. I don't want to have more studies. I don't want to have more reports. I know that there is action that needs to be taken. So how do we now bring people together and take that step? If it's the independent movement that's happening, some interest there, and it could be a great thing.
Anna Warwick says we have a question on Slido around property transfer tax. And of course, as the value of homes has gone up, that's become more and more expensive, paid by the buyer, harder to get into the market that way. Would you repeal that, lower that, raise that, and why?
Boy, I wish that candidates from every party could be subject to this huge variety and range of questions. The property transfer tax I've only experienced as someone who has sold property, bought property. I guess it's on the seller.
It's on the buyer.
It's on the buyer. See, I'm not up to date with the property transfer tax. I think there are so many things that are in the way of buying and selling property, and as things get more expensive, it's harder and harder to be able to afford it. Every bit is increasing the price of homes. I don't know if I feel confident in saying let's do away with the property transfer tax, but I know that we need to do whatever we can to lower property costs overall, because that is one of the biggest issues of our day.
That's time. Kevin, here's the question you wanted to answer earlier. How long to balance the budget? What's the horizon that you think is acceptable?
I had notes. There we go. You know, we need to establish a means and a time of prosperity. And when we're in a prosperous situation as an individual, as a business, as a province, we're in a zone where we can help. We can plan, whether it's budgets or plan action or plan incentives or initiatives. We can provide solutions, we can provide action, we can provide opportunity. And then on the flip side, we can also offer protection. Protection through law enforcement, conservation, DFO, forestry and fisheries. We need to protect our assets, and we also need to respect our assets. So increasing our opportunity of prosperity is so important. I don't like all the taxes. Simplify the taxes. If we're going to really focus on one thing, perhaps increasing the PST by 1% and scrapping everything else might be a solution. But that's just throwing it out there. But it's time to get creative.
That's time. Anna, this is the last question, I think, before your closing statements. Anna Warwick Sears, what do you think of dedicated funding for habitat preservation and restoration? This is a question from Slido.
You know, one of the venues that I've been talking to in recent months is the BC Wildlife Federation, who is strongly advocating for more funding for habitat preservation and restoration. You know, it's interesting because preserving habitat and restoring it is also preserving and restoring our watersheds and the sources of all our drinking water. There's a ton of overlap between habitat preservation, restoration, and reduced fire risk. They're complementary to each other. We need to be looking at all of these solutions to all of these separate problems as one big solution. We need to be planning watersheds as their own entity. What are all the different things that watersheds are giving us, including habitat, water, fire risk reduction, and we need to be planning them in the same way. And this will help. This will help the wildlife.
I bet you never thought you'd have to answer a watershed question in 1 minute after being head of a water board. Similarly, tough challenge for you on this last question, Kevin. What do you think of mandatory treatment for drug addiction and mental illness?
I am supportive of involuntary treatment. I do think that we need to treat early. Hearing stories of young individuals, it actually blows my mind and it troubles me. Those who are getting involved in drugs at such an early age. We need early intervention. Like I said, we need to invest in our education systems. We need to invest in the supports and the opportunities to graduate young individuals who are more ready to take on today's world's struggles and hardships. We need to do a better job in preparing them to handle what life is like. Having someone in a facility to get clean and to really have a good conversation about how their life would like to go moving forward. You can't have that conversation in a time of crisis or addiction or altered mentality at the time. So,
Thank you. And now we have time for closing statements. 2 minutes. Anna Warwick-Sears.
Come so fast. I want to come back to the subject of trust. We really need to be able to trust our elected representatives. We need to have people who have a track record. We need to understand where they're coming from. The last representative we had for this riding was Norm Letnick. He was a city councilor before that. We knew him. We knew how he was going to help us on different issues. Tracy Gray was also known and trusted from her work in the city council and also as the chair of the Okanagan Basin Water Board. Trust is essential. What we're looking at right now, not to get partisan, but the fact of the matter is that the Conservatives only have 8 candidates with any experience in legislature. And their ideas are to come in and start all over again from the ground up. Reforming government, and they have a very shallow bench, if you will. I think it is going to be unpredictable. I think it will be destabilizing to a certain extent because of the different factors that are at play. I believe that the NDP is rational, stable, experienced. You may not like all of their ideas, their policies, but they are definitely people that you can negotiate with and people that really have the very best interests of ordinary people at heart. I just think it's a risk if we're looking at a wholesale change in government at this point. And I want people to think about that. I have been working for this community for my entire career. I've been working on the problems with you, with each of your different communities. I've appeared before the Chamber of Commerce many times. I'm a known quantity and also
time.
have been very successful.
Thank you. Kevin?
thanks. The role of an MLA is to be relatable, reliable, realistic, and immersed in their communities. You have to be deeply rooted in your communities that we're charged to serve. It's a challenge to trust our current systems with 2 parties and the conflict between party over people in some instances. I have a very good grasp of rural versus municipal issues. I believe in a balance of approaches and taking the steps to reach some achievable outcomes. My campaign and intent is really about local representation and representing young families and people like me who are just regular people straight out of Rutland, and motivating the younger demographic to really get involved. We are going to be the leaders, and I hope that the efforts that I'm putting forward motivates people to get involved, motivates some interest to get involved in their local politics, and motivates interest in getting aware of the issues. We're getting to a point where a lot of people are choosing not to vote and not really wanting to participate in the political process, and that's wrong. I'm committed to moving towards solutions, and we are in unprecedented political times, and there's really an interesting opportunity where something in the province can happen that's fairly historical, and that's having a group of independents who are perhaps center of right, but wanting to actually get some real traction on the issues and hold the parties accountable. And I don't think a two-party system is going to achieve things in any way, shape, or form in a good amount of time. Bouncing left to right's wrong, and we need a balance moving forward.
That's
and I'm
good.
asking your support to make that happen.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to thank you for coming today. And for running. Running is not easy, so thank you, and good luck on Election Day. And I'd like to thank the Chamber, Colleen and Maurice, for inviting me back again this morning. Sarah Penton will be here tomorrow for Kelowna Centre, and I think Colleen has a few more words. Yes.
Thank you, Chris. I just received an email from the office. There was 2 people that sent a comment. One came through just directly to me and one to our office, thanking us for holding these all candidates forums. So thank you to Chris and commentary. Both of them commented on how well you moderated and thanked you for your work.
They're plants.
They're plants, okay. But they also, with that, I want to thank Castanet for running these live, because this gives everybody that's not inside the room, that didn't come out to the Capri and enjoy breakfast, the opportunity to be an informed voter. And that is, we've been joking about 50-second all candidates. For me, that's my biggest role in this, and the Chamber's role in this is helping people become informed voters and exercising your democratic right to vote. So I appreciate you coming out today. To the candidates, thank you for putting your best foot forward. Both of you, good luck in this race. You're both fantastic human beings, and it shows that you're both passionate about what you're doing. So congratulations, and I look forward to working with one of you at the end of all of this. I would be remiss if I did not thank both the candidates again for joining us. Chris, again, thank you for all your hard work. We'll talk federal for next year. Just getting them in place. And I want to thank our sponsors today, Ducks Unlimited. You can find out more about the election process, when elections is, off of our website. We have candidate information as well as Elections BC information, but you can also check on Elections BC. And reminder, please get out and vote on October 19th. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully we'll see some of you again tomorrow when we do the Kelowna Central riding. Thanks very much and have a great day.